The future of graphics is here. Your Xbox is about to get a huge power boost. Persona 5 is way better on Xbox, and is it time for the Xbox One E? Let's discuss. So one of the most anticipated games this fall is Modern Warfare 2. I know a lot of people are probably out there, they're burnt out on Call of Duty in general as a franchise, but Modern Warfare 2, it looks pretty good from what we saw at Summer Games Fest. Now the thing about this is that yes, it looked pretty good. I believe that they were playing on a PlayStation 5 when they were showcasing that footage, but we know that this game is cross-generational, so how good can it really look once it finally ships, when it's taken into consideration the old hardware from last generation? And I feel like that's the big question on everyone's mind right now. When is it time for developers to stop making games for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4? And that's a bit of a tricky question. It's easy to point at the old generation and say, oh, it's holding us back. We haven't seen the true power of this next-gen technology because the developers are trying to develop games for 4 different consoles. This is crap. But at the same time, I understand why these developers are going through the trouble to make these games cross-generational. I'm thinking of Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. Money, of course, right? Because there's 50 million Xbox One consoles out there compared to how many Xbox Series consoles out there. If these developers just did next gen only, they'd be cutting out like tens of millions of sales. That's not even accounting the over 100 million PS4s that are still out there. I think it's like, what, 114 million or something like that? Despite that, we are seeing more developers leave behind the last generation in favor of just focusing on these new consoles. Gotham Knights is going to be a next gen only title. I believe that Starfield, when it finally comes out in 2023, is going to be a next gen title as well. There's that one horror game that me and Jimmy talked about not too long ago. It's got like that cultish vibe to the chant. I'm looking forward to that game, but it's only playable on next gen consoles. You can only chant on next gen. Sorry fellas, well I don't know. I don't know how many people are looking forward to that game. And this article by Game Rant actually brings up a lot of good, interesting points when it comes to Call of Duty and its history with cross-generational releases. So for example, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, it came out on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. It looked great at the time. I really enjoyed that game, but it also came out for the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, and it looked like trash. And you know me, I'm a pretty optimistic guy. I don't think that same situation is gonna happen with Modern Warfare 2 when it releases in the fall or the holiday season. I just think it's interesting that we're slowly creeping up on this time where we're gonna fully transition over to the next gen consoles. We know that the next Call of Duty game is gonna be next gen only when they take that little break of theirs, once the Microsoft acquisition is all said and done. So what does that mean for the Xbox One going forward? We know that they already stopped production on the One X and the One S to focus on making series consoles. But if you remember back in the day, when they were transitioning, doing the same sort of thing, transitioning from 360 to Xbox One, they put out the last edition of the Xbox 360. Infamously, they were like, well, if you don't want to be always connected online and deal with our DRM policies, you can play these games on this version of the Xbox 360. It was called the Xbox 360e for some reason, I cannot tell you. Xbox naming conventions have always been a mystery to me, so it makes me wonder if Xbox is going to make a transitionary Xbox One, if that would even be valuable to them. I know that the equivalent of that would probably be the Xbox Series S, but maybe there's something valuable in making an Xbox One E and making it a little bit cheaper, maybe like $200, $150 if we're going crazy, to help ease people's worries as we go through this tumultuous time, these uncertain times, and transition over to the Xbox Series consoles. Speaking of the Xbox Series X, Xbox hardware, I have all sorts of links down in the description below if you want to buy some stuff for yourself. I also have some really sick monitors down there and some controllers. I have been talking a lot about the 8-bit Do controller, the ultimate Xbox wired controller. I've been using it a lot on Chivalry and I've been kicking ass. So if you want to get one for yourself, I have a link for that as well. So one of the biggest surprises for me at the Xbox Bethesda showcase a couple of weeks ago was the fact that the Persona series was finally coming to Xbox consoles. And not only that, this is something I've been trying to manifest for a while now. One of my earliest videos, I had a topic that was like, it'd be awesome if Game Pass had Persona 5 on there, and people were in the comments like, that'll never happen, you're dumb, boo. And yes, these games, they're a few years old. Of course, we had to wait a while to get them. But here's the thing, and here's why it is awesome to be a Game Pass subscriber most of the time. It's that when these games finally make their way over to Xbox, we get the best versions of them. So all of those people out there who paid for the base game, who paid for the DLCs, they're gonna be looking at everyone who has a Game Pass subscription and being like, what the hell, dude? I just spent money on this, and over there, this guy's getting it for free, for nothing. Like I said earlier, I am super excited that this series and Atlas is showing some love to Xbox gamers. I can't wait for people all over the world, Xbox gamers, to experience this series for the first time and do it on the cheap, just through their Game Pass subscription. I think that's pretty awesome. Next up, let's talk about Game Pass. You know what I always say, it is not an Xbox Ready video if I don't mention Game Pass in some capacity. It really can't be an Xbox account without talking about Game Pass at all. June was a great month for Game Pass, I think. Assassin's Creed Origins started off strong at the beginning of the month, then we got TMNT Shredder's Revenge, which is awesome. I beat it with all my friends the other day, and I've been having a great time with it. Played it with my wife, she enjoys it, and I always enjoy a game that I can play with other people on the couch, share that experience with each other. And then I've also been playing Naraka Blade Point. You know, I haven't really gotten too deep into it yet. I'm just getting out of the stages where they're handicapping the games with a bunch of bots instead of players. But I see the potential in it. So yes, June, pretty decent month, pretty strong month for Game Pass overall. July, however, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so how can they follow up June? What are they gonna give us for the month of July? And again, I think they're starting off strong at the beginning of the month. They're adding Far Cry 5 to the service in the first week of July. Now again, Far Cry 5, older at this point, right? It's not the newest Far Cry title, but I think it is a win because I was looking at all of the tiers for the new PlayStation Plus, Essential, Extra, and Premium, and I was noticing that they had Far Cry games on there as part of their service, and I was kind of like, that seems a little weird that Ubisoft is showing PlayStation love on their subscription service, but we don't have any of the Far Cry games over on Game Pass. Sony probably cut a sweet deal with them, probably paid a lot of money for that. So yeah, Far Cry 5, obviously not the newest Far Cry, but I think a solid addition overall, and especially is encouraging to see that Game Pass and Ubisoft, their relationship seems to be good, seems to be going well. So yeah, the gimmick with Far Cry 5 is that they take you out of the jungle for once, out of the wilderness, and they put you in the United States, in an alternate version of the United States. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic situation. It's run by these really freaky, weird, cultish hillbilly people. Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid game. Not a home run, but pretty solid, a great addition, I would say, to Game Pass. Later in the month, we have As Dusk Falls, and this is sort of like a narrative, interactive experience. They showed it off heavily at the Xbox Bethesda showcase, and from an art standpoint, I think this looks really interesting. The trailer kind of got me confused about the story and the gameplay, but I think it's just interesting enough with its look, and the voice cast, the acting seemed really awesome in the trailer that they show off for me to want to check it out. I would personally really love if they added The Quarry to Game Pass. I know it's a little soon because that game just launched. The Quarry is from the same guys that did Until Dawn and all sorts of other games, and I really want to try it, but I'm waiting for it to go on sale because I hear it's kind of a short game to get through. So I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to spend the $70 on this game and then be done with it in like one playthrough. This game was developed by Stadia when they still had an in-house studio working on their own games. It was meant to be played over cloud streaming. And from what my friend Jimmy has been telling me, it really shows like in the quick time events, they're really simple and easy. It lends itself well to a streaming experience. So it might be smart on Microsoft's part to add it to Game Pass Ultimate so people can stream it over the xCloud. Obviously, this is just the first couple of games we know are coming to Game Pass in July, but as we get closer, and maybe later this week, we'll have a better picture of what's to come. This report by Pure Xbox state that Xbox Series X consoles sold 3,272 units last week, while both digital and disc versions of the PS5 sold a total of 3,035 consoles. The Xbox Series S outsold them both, as it managed 3,423 last week. This puts the total number of Xbox Series consoles at 6,000 6,695, more than double the combined sales of both PlayStation 5 versions. Now, this is crazy to me because Xbox historically just does not sell well in Japan. It just doesn't happen. Even in the glory days of the Xbox 360, they really didn't sell that much compared to the other consoles, PlayStation and the Nintendo Wii at the time.
Now I know what everyone's gonna say, right? I know what everyone's gonna say.
People are only buying Xbox consoles because they can't get their hands on a PS5. That's just the way it is, right? People are just gonna settle for an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series S because they're having so much trouble finding a PlayStation 5. And I would have accepted that, you know, the last time this happened when Xbox outsold PS5 in Japan. But the fact that it's happened again, I don't know, guys, I don't know. Because my logic is, I don't have enough expendable income for me to be like, oh, I can't buy a PlayStation 5, well, let me just buy this Xbox for no reason. Even though I don't want it, I'm just gonna buy it. And sure, maybe some people are thinking about that, especially with the Series S console. They're like, okay, well, I want a next-gen experience, but I don't wanna spend that much money. I'll buy this and then wait for the PlayStation 5 when it becomes more available. So yeah, I guess there is some truth to that. We know that Sony is struggling mightily to get PlayStation 5s in the marketplace, no matter where they're at. And we know that Xbox has gotten a little crafty with it. They paid for chip priority, and the Series S has turned out to be like a galaxy-brained move on Xbox's part. It's just kind of like a sidekick, right? But it turns out that the Series S is quickly becoming the main event, the hero of this generation for Xbox. The market is responding, guys. People like the Series S. This all comes after Microsoft has stated that they want to focus on building a bigger presence in the Japanese market. They want a better relationship with studios based out of Japan. And I think this is a reflection of that. Yes, it's a small victory, but I think it's a good win for Xbox, and it shows progress in their overall mission. Positive sign for Xbox going forward. Next up, let's talk about FSR, Fidelity FX Super Resolution. This is one area that the Xbox is legitimately beating PlayStation 5. I know I talk a lot about small victories and little things, the little differences between the two, but I really think Xbox with this technology is superior right now to PlayStation 5. So what FSR does is that internally it runs the game at a lower resolution, and then it uses a really fancy, technologically advanced algorithm to upscale the game as far up to 4K. And the reason why you want to do this is because it allows these games to run technically at 4K and 60 FPS, or even higher frame rates. We know that if you have HDMI 2.1, you can go all the way up to 4K and 120 FPS. So FSR is celebrating its 1-year anniversary, its 1-year birthday, but now they just announced that FSR 2.0 is coming, 2.0. So the reason why FSR 2 coming to consoles is a huge deal is because on consoles, we'll finally get something comparable to Nvidia's DLSS, which is sick. The power of a freaking PC graphics card in a budget console. That's huge for anyone who is not into building their own rig and they just want to stick to console gaming. So some games that already have this are the PC versions of God of War and Deathloop, and it looks pretty great. There are tons of comparisons out there that you can check out for yourself, but the fact that it's coming to consoles is really awesome, especially for Xbox with big games like Redfall coming out next year. Hopefully they'll put FSR 2 into that so it's in tip-top shape. As of right now, it has only been authorized for developers to use, so we don't know what games in the future are gonna have this technology, but it's pretty freaking sweet that Xbox has this exclusive deal on their consoles compared to PlayStation, which has nothing. They'll probably get it eventually, of course, and I'm not saying that games look bad on the PlayStation 5. I was pretty blown away the first time I played Spider-Man in performance mode, because I didn't play it last generation. I played on my PS5, I was like, oh my god! But for now, guys, we're feasting on the Xbox table.